Two knives. One costs $500 with premium super steel, tactical design, and marketed to special forces and survival experts. The other costs $18, made in France since 1890 with wooden handles, basic carbon steel, and looks like something your grandfather would use to cut cheese. Now, which one cuts better? Which one performs better in all the actual tasks you do in the wilderness or at camp? Like slicing vegetables, carving wood, making feather sticks for fire, and processing rope? You and I know it's not even close. The $18 French peasant knife destroys the $500 tactical blade at actual cutting. So how does a knife that costs less than a decent meal outperform knives that cost more than a monthly car payment? Now, so you understand what actually makes a knife cut well, you'll never look at tactical knives the same way again. Because here's what the $500 knife companies don't want you to know. The steel doesn't matter nearly as much as the shape. What makes a knife cut well? Most people would say sharp edge or good steel. And yeah, those matter. But they're not the most important factor. The most important factor is geometry. Specifically, how thick is the blade behind the edge? Think of it like a wedge. When you push a knife through material, the blade has to push that material apart. A thick blade behind the edge creates a big wedge, causing more resistance. The material fights back. You're not slicing, you're splitting. On the other hand, a thin blade creates a small wedge, thereby creating less resistance. You're actually slicing, the way a knife is meant to work. This is where blade grinds come in. Blade grinds determine how much steel is behind your edge, how the blade tapers, and how it moves through material. The Opinel uses a convex grind as a subtle curve from spine to edge. Combined with very thin blade stock, we're talking about 0.010 inches behind the edge, while the tactical knife is 5 times thicker. It's a slicing machine. Now, the steel? The Opinel uses basic carbon steel, the 12C27 Sandvik or XC90 high carbon steel. On the other hand, tactical knives use S30V, S90V, M390, or CPM3V. These are super steels, more expensive, hold an edge longer, and are better corrosion resistant. But here's the thing, if your geometry is wrong, your super steel doesn't matter. A $500 knife with S90V steel and terrible geometry will cut worse than an $18 knife with basic steel and great geometry every time. And what are most people actually doing with knives? Basic camp tasks and everyday cutting. Tactical knives are designed for worst-case scenarios like prying open doors, batoning through logs like an axe, and taking abuse. Basically being a pry bar that sometimes cuts. Question is, when's the last time you needed to pry open a door with your knife? Versus when's the last time you needed to slice something? And the Opinel has been proving this point for over 130 years. Because when you design something purely to cut, without worrying about looking tactical, you end up with something remarkable. In 1890, in the French Alps, a man named Joseph Opinel set up a small workshop in the village of Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. Joseph is a farmer's son. He understands that working people need knives that work, not knives that look impressive. So he creates something beautifully simple, a carbon steel blade with a wooden handle, that's it. No tactical features, no glass breakers, no serrations, no unnecessary additions. Just what's needed, a handle and a blade. Opinels come in numbered sizes. Number 6 is tiny, keychain size. Number 12 is a large working knife. Number 8 is the sweet spot, the perfect all-around size with about 3.25-inch blade that fits in your pocket and can handle any task. And with a price tag of $15 to $20 depending on size. A price that hasn't really changed much over the decades. In fact, inflation adjusted, it's actually gotten cheaper. In France, the Opinel is everywhere. Every family has one. Kids get their first Opinel as a rite of passage. It's part of French life like baguettes and wine. Pablo Picasso called it one of the most beautifully designed objects ever made. The Museum of Modern Art in New York includes the Opinel in its design collection. It sits alongside iconic designs from across human history. But if simple, thin, cutting-focused knives work so well, why did the knife industry go in the complete opposite direction? Why are survival knives thick, heavy, and expensive? Because somewhere along the way, knives stopped being tools and started being tactical gear. Early 2000s, post 9/11 America, military worship is at an all-time high. Everyone wants to look like an operator. The tactical gear industry explodes. Knife companies saw an opportunity and marketing shifted. Every knife became a weapon, and every design became aggressive. The design philosophy changed too. Don't design for what people will actually do. Instead, de-design for the worst-case scenario. Blades got thicker and thicker. Quarter-inch thick blades became common. In fact, some tactical knives have blades over 5 millimeters thick. The reasoning? You might need to pry something. But when's the last time you needed to pry something with your knife? And if you did need to pry something, wouldn't a pry bar or multi-tool be better anyway? Then came the super steel arms race, each steel harder and more expensive than the last. The performance improvements? Marginal. You're paying hundreds of dollars more for maybe 10% better edge retention. And here's the kicker. Those super steels are hard to sharpen, really hard. You need diamond stones, special equipment, time, and skill. When you're in the field and your super steel tactical knife gets dull and you only have a regular sharpening stone, good luck getting that edge back. Meanwhile, someone with an Opinel can sharpen their knife on a smooth river rock. And tactical knives are heavy, 1 pound, sometimes more. That's a lot of weight on your belt or in your pack. An Opinel number 8, 1.6 ounces, barely noticeable in your pocket. Many bushcrafters carry Opinels as secondary knives or even primary knives for food and carving tasks. Because survival isn't about looking cool or having the toughest gear, it's about efficiency. Doing more with less, carrying weight that earns its place. The Opinel isn't better than tactical knives because of some secret technology. It's better because it understands what a knife is for. Meanwhile, the tactical knife industry's philosophy is to make a knife that does everything. Cuts, pries, hammers, breaks glass, signals aircraft, and probably makes coffee too. And the result? A tool that's excellent at nothing. The lesson? Question tactical marketing. Question whether you need super steel. Question whether thicker is actually better. Sometimes the best tool is the simplest one, the one that does its primary job excellently rather than doing everything poorly. And this applies beyond knives. It also applies to other gears, tools, and life itself. In a world that constantly tells us we need more, the Opinel reminds us that less is often enough. Because when you strip away the marketing and the fantasy scenarios and the tactical aesthetics, cutting is what knives are actually for. And nobody cuts like the French.